Looking here, Mayor, I believe we've got Councilmember Ayers, Councilmember or Mayor Pro Tem Paxton, and Councilmember Grooms and Councilmember Martin present. So I believe we've got enough for a quorum.
Yep. You see Brett?
Yes, sir. Brett is here.
All righty. All righty. Alex, why don't you take it over then and turn it over to Brett? Y'all tee it up.
Sure. Glad to do it, Mayor. I think the initial impetus for having a meeting with DOT was to chat and learn more about the intersection over there at Old Monroe Road. The council was working with DOT for several years, probably, to get a design that was the council could support. Brought in our own designer to help design it for DOT, and they provided a design that is substantially similar to what the town was seeking. And so I believe kind of talking through that design, because they've got right of way that timeline wise they need to get started and complete on. And then also the U5112, the Potter Pleasant Plains intersection project, kind of to discuss that project as well. So with that being said, Mr. Knight, can I turn it over to you, sir?
Yes, you can. I'm going to do my best to seek control so I can share my screen. Okay. I think you should be seeing this screen right here. So it looks on my end that I've got it right.
We can see it, Brett.
Okay. Well, thanks for having us, Stallings Town Council, and to all. We are excited to be back in front of you, although we're still doing that virtually. We came, I think it's going on a year ago, maybe. Seems like when the pandemic sort of first started, we were talking with you guys about some concepts we've been working on. You know, as Alex had indicated, we have been working on this project for a while now, and had pulled some things together, but I think that was when we were all just learning how to cope with the virtual meeting platforms, and things just didn't go as smoothly, harder to deliver the message. And I think we've had a year to get better at it. So hopefully I'll be able to do a better job tonight and help better address some questions. But I do have a presentation I'll share with you. Again, I'll just kind of quickly kick it off here. I am Brett Knight. I'm Division 10 engineer with NCDOT. Been in this position for, well, heading on 2 years, about 18 months or so now. And I've had opportunity to work with Alex and the rest of the team there at the town. Just want to let you guys know that that everyone there, I feel like we do a pretty good job of collaboration and putting our minds together to solve problems. And this is just going to be another good example of that. So hopefully when we get done with this and everyone gets their questions answered about it, we'll have a good solution in front of us. So with that, actually I backed up. I feel like I'm missing one slide. Here we go. I think I've got it right now. So we want to talk a little bit about what NCDOT's mission statement is. What's our job and our goals as a state transportation agency? And, you know, essentially our priorities are rooted in, number one, always safety. Okay, that's always going to be our number one goal. But our job is really to provide for the movement of people, goods, and services, and that's all rooted in desire to help provide for and enable a strong and vibrant economy in the state. And in order to do that, we've got to move people. We've got to move the trucks. We got to move the goods and services. And anyone that lives and works in this area knows that Old Monroe Road itself certainly carries its share of traffic, and as such also carries goods and services to a great degree. And so, you know, we know it's a growing demand. It's something that has you know, grown over the years into what it is today. And our traffic forecasts indicate that it's going to just continue to grow, right? You know, the traffic volumes aren't going to slow down, and so we have to design roadways that are going to handle that future project load. And that's where we come down to the purpose and need of this project. U4714 is the state project number. That statement is something we have to put into all of our projects, and so that's why that tells us what problem we're trying to solve. And you can see there that it's clearly indicated that our duty here is to improve the existing projected traffic flow and operational efficiency on Old Monroe Road. You know, that is at the core of what we're trying to accomplish here. And now, in order to do that, we need to coordinate with folks like y'all. We need to make sure that we're satisfying local needs and desires in so much as possible. So that's what we do. We strive to make accommodations while we're also able to meet that basic purpose and need, and maintain our goals set inside our mission statements. And so there, like we said, there's been ongoing coordination, at least since 2013, on this project. And there's been public meetings starting back in October of 2016. And you know, the general design for this project is called an RCI corridor, so reduced conflict intersection corridor, and that I'll tell you a little bit more about what that might mean here in the next slide or two. But that was the initial design, was a reduced conflict intersection. I'll show you a diagram of that momentarily, but just wanted to give you that quick background so you know how long we've been going. And so if you know, this is a public hearing map. It's sort of a depiction of what we originally proposed. This is the reduced conflict design. So this is Potter Road that turns into Stallings Road, kind of south to north on the screen, and then east or west to east on Old Monroe Road in this direction. And what this design does is this was going to allow left turns off of Old Monroe, but not left turns off of Stallings or Potter. And the reason we would do something like that is because it increases the operational efficiency, and it actually is safer as well. However, you know, we knew that the town wasn't completely keen on that. We had, you know, like I said, let out with, you know, we've always been in this collaborative mode with the town. And so we knew that you guys wanted us to look at some other options. So we did. We looked at what would it look like to put a full movement, what I'll call traditional intersection at Stallings Potter. And that was at the town's request, but that was a good request, right? If it would work, why wouldn't we do that if that's what the town wanted? And so we did take a look at that. Also, you know, we're aware that the town has a desire to make this a downtown center. And, you know, part of that would include sort of a multi-way boulevard feel with a little bit less wide lanes, so narrower lanes, landscape medians, you know, and we could still talk about that even after this project's underway, about what can we do to beautify things out here. So those are all the things that we sort of took a look at. This was a sketch that the town provided to us that kind of depicted what this downtown center might look like, just at a high planning level. And so we kind of used this to come up with a few other options for us to think through, right? What could we do? You know, we looked at that full movement intersection, and we've known this for quite some time, and we've been pretty open about it. The full movement intersection, it doesn't give us that level of service that we would expect to deliver in that future year, right? We're designing projects to handle a future year of traffic. We're not designing projects to handle today's traffic. Obviously, that makes sense because it is a large investment of public funds, and we want to be good stewards of those funds. So operationally, and we know that the traditional intersection wouldn't work. And as an alternative to that, we looked at what's known as a quadrant roadway. And the quadrant roadway is something that oftentimes could potentially work better, I'll say, to fit into this downtown center, because it influences the trips that are taken around the perimeter of an intersection. It doesn't seem to be as counterintuitive at first to some folks, I think, when they first take a look at it, although it's going to take some getting used to. And I'll show you a quick video here a little bit that describes this better. But what we figured out was that the RCI, the original design that I showed you the public hearing map of, that actually worked the best, okay? Just from a pure engineering perspective, level of service, we think the RCI was the best, but the quadrant performed okay. You know, it was going to do the job. It wasn't quite as good, but you know, it's somewhat splitting of hairs. Just that we knew that one of those two designs that's what it would take to handle that future year traffic volume. Here, just kind of listing out some benefits of a quadrant roadway. And you know what, this list, you could apply some of this list to the reduced conflict intersection as well, because they both are going to reduce congestion and save time for folks as they travel these busy corridors. It actually makes the footprint of the project, the overall width of the road, more narrow. So you have a reduced cost because you're impacting less businesses. It's less disruptive, and it saves money on right of way. And so those are all goals that we're trying to achieve, right? And so I'm now hearing myself twice. Have a little echo. I think it's gone now. But what this does is it redirects traffic through right-hand turns, which are safer. You could see even companies like UPS. You know, they have programs that direct their drivers to only make right turns. You know, or to try to only make right turns. Obviously, you got to make some lefts, but point being is they're definitely it's definitely a safer alternative, and it reduces the signal phases. That second to last bullet there, that's talking about how much time you can give, green time you can give to a certain direction. And so if you have a traditional intersection, that's an 8-phase signal. An intersection like this is going to be a 3-phase signal, and that ultimately results in more green time. And so our thoughts are that this design that we're going to go through here in a second is going to meet the purpose and need of the project, which we're bound to do that, to serve the public. And we believe that it will match better town future development. That's something that Alex and I have talked about a number of times, just in general, the vision for the town. So it's a goal that we share mutually, and we want to help the town achieve that if we can. So these are just some kind of quick definitions. Essentially, it's a way of redistributing the left turn by only making right turns. So you would drive through an intersection, make a right, and you're going back the way you want it to go, which would have been left if you turned left. So it's a lot of this information can be found if y'all are bored and want to do some quick research. I mean, there's certainly federal level guidance that tells us that these types of intersections are the right choices to make in growing urbanized areas because of their functionality and their safety. So it's not a completely foreign concept. It's somewhat new to our area, but here's kind of a layout of the intersection, right? This is again Old Monroe Road, and then Potter Road, and then Stallings Road to the north. I hope everyone's tracking that. And so this is a kind of a quick little video. It's a simulation of what it might look like for vehicles that want to be, all right, let's say you're on Old Monroe and you want to turn left onto Stallings, okay? So instead of doing that, you go through the intersection, you make this right-hand turn. So watch these vehicles, and they're kind of a little bit slow. You see this guy in this yellow car here is flashing. He's going through the intersection. He's going to track down through here. Same thing on the northern leg, all right? This guy was coming this way, and he wanted to turn left, but instead he came up through here, this quadrant loop. So if you're tracking the two yellow cars, and this is the part when I was watching this video, I was thinking, man, get on the gas, car. I could drive like I'm in Charlotte a lot. So I think they could have gone a little faster in the simulation, but it does serve the purpose. And so this was actually the part that was hard for me to describe last time I got in front of you guys. And again, that was the beginning of the pandemic, right? We hadn't quite mastered all this and we weren't all used to looking at it. But these arrows that are coming up here will show you again, if you want to make a left, you go around the quadrant roadway, then you cut back right and you're going in that direction that you wanted. And, you know, this is not something that, that folks are automatically used to. And I think that was part of the difficulty when we were trying to describe what this would look like to everyone. But there is certainly a lot of data out there and success stories that could be pointed to. We actually put one of these together in Huntersville several years ago, and there was some apprehension from the local folks at first because of fear that it would, you know, either confuse or people or, you know, cause folks to not drive through it. But the reality of it is it works. You know, this is solutions like this are derived out of need, and as engineers, we're challenged with solving problems, but sometimes they're a little unique. And in this case, we've got a new design that we're proposing, and so I hope everyone can see and understands this concept. And we can keep going through it, but if you're still struggling with how you think this might work, then we can talk about that now. Otherwise, we could talk about it at the end too.
Yeah, Brett, coming off Potters and coming off Stallings Road, can they make lefts?
So if you're off of Stallings, say you're southbound and you want to go down Old Monroe,
Right.
you can make that left turn. Okay.
All right.
So that left is there, and you can make that. This left northbound to the westbound is also available.
All right. That's
Okay.
what I thought. I couldn't tell that arrow, but I
Yes.
thought so. All right. Thank you.
It is. Yes, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Hey, Brett, what's there to physically prevent somebody going eastbound on 74 from just winging a left right there north on Stallings Road? Because I think
about eastbound on Old Monroe.
Yes, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, so you're right, absolutely right. There's no physical barrier to prevent that. You know, just like any intersection today, right? I mean, you could make an errant move if you wanted to at other types of intersections. And so, you know, number one, we hope folks follow the law, right? I mean, that's the number one goal. And if they did it and there was no one coming and they didn't cause an accident, well, great. But maybe there would be some blue lights nearby that might feel otherwise.
Yeah, I'm just saying that because that's something that I see fairly frequently at some of the super street intersections where it's right turn only. I see people just going straight over the
People will
humps.
cut across it, yeah. And you know what? You know, one thing you can't engineer around is
People.
People. That's right. You know, you could give all the guidance that you want, and to be honest, you know, at a certain time of day when there was no traffic out here, would that be so bad? Probably not, because you're probably not getting an accident. But the busiest times of the day, you know, you simply wouldn't be able to make that move because the signal timing wouldn't allow it. There would always be somebody in your way.
True.
So so what it would do is it would, you know, it train people in a sense to figure out, well, actually it's just faster for me to go make this loop around, right?
Fair point.
That's the premise behind it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I have one question on this one here, and it's still the same question I had the last time you came here, is that on the light blue side of there's two lanes coming off of Potter Road. On the green side, it's just a single lane going through the intersection. So my concern is there going to be any study to validate that you're not going to get traffic backing up there trying to turn right onto Monroe Road going towards Charlotte, and people are trying to cut across those folks trying to get into the go straight lane to across the lane for Potter. So you see what I'm trying?
Yeah.
So the lane that you've got your cursor on right now that goes straight through, if it's backed up, then, I mean, you're gonna have people starting to back up at, you know, where your turn is coming into off
You're
of
absolutely right.
the roundabout. And then also you're gonna have confliction, it seems like, of people trying to cross in front of them to get over into the turn lane. And today, I mean, at when it's rather busy, I mean, that lane there, the straight through lane that you currently have now, easily backs up all the way past the park on the opposite side. So I guess I'm a little concerned, just based on the traffic patterns that I see currently, that would be a sticky point that would cause some grief with a lot of folks, because you'd have very little room there to basically crisscross traffic from one lane to the other.
Sure. And good questions. What I'll say to that is that the signal timing itself works in favor of the intersection. And so, you know, we would be able to clear this queue of traffic that would allow these cars to get back in the lane. Okay, that would be the goal. And the cool thing about it is, if you think about when the 3-phase versus 8-phase reduction, that gives that much more green time to the movements that are going green. And so that's why you're not going to see the kind of backups in the future once this project is implemented that you have today. I went through this intersection just today, as a matter of fact, and I was there. I was like, man, this is a long line of cars, and I bet it's like that every day in pre-pandemic, and probably as the world transitions back to a more normal time, we'll probably see, you know, those volumes returning, right? So there's no doubt that there's a challenge here. That's one reason that we're talking about such an innovative design, that it's not going to be the kind of queuing or stacking of cars that you would see. And we would, again, be able to time that intersection to allow this traffic to funnel through, so the queue clears out, which gives ample time for these folks to get in the lane they want to be in. That's the premise there.
Is there a stop sign there at the end of, almost
Here.
where you've got your cursor right there?
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Oh,
Absolutely.
okay. So that's not free flowing.
No.
There is a stop sign there.
That's
Okay,
correct.
I got you. All right.
Yes.
Good to know. Thanks, man.
Yes. Okay. Any questions?
I do have one quick comment, Brett. I looked back at the traffic analysis, and the traffic analysis of this design in the design year has a back of queue just under 200 feet. So to Brett's point, based on the increased efficiency of the intersection, we would have less likelihood of the queue spilling back across that intersection.
And I apologize, I didn't do introductions to the rest of the team, but that was Mike Reese. He is the Western Region Congestion Management Engineer for North Carolina DOT. So he is most definitely our expert when it comes to preparing for, designing, and coming up with these types of treatments. And so thank you, Mike, for that detail. So I'm not sure where the 200 feet falls. I'm assuming we could start, it's got to be up in there somewhere, but the point is that queue of traffic today is much, much longer than 200 feet. So in the design year, we're stacking cars up 200 feet and then they're flushing, the intersection flushes through. So that's the beauty of this design. It's just that much more efficient, which is exactly why we're proposing it. And again, with the other benefits, you know, the more narrow cross section, less cost, that cross section right along, that's less lanes for pedestrians to cross. That alone is a big win for a place that's trying to become a downtown center, right? It's always a goal to reduce that ped vehicle conflict. So there's a lot of good attributes of this type of design. And thank you for that information, Mike.
And thanks for answering the question.
So, you know, this is some of those other benefits that I was already kind of getting into. you know, we're convinced that it's the right solution here because it's a balance of the town's desires, we believe, and what's needed to meet the demands of the roadway. You know, we've been able to incorporate some of the other comments from the town into this design. You know, reducing that median width, like I talked about, it's going to save us money. It's going to be better for the downtown feel. Certainly, we can talk about landscaping, how we can weave that into the project. You know, you can have plantings and certain things that obviously you wouldn't want to do something that was going to impede sight distance or create a safety concern. But otherwise, I'm sure that there would be opportunity to enhance the median. We've brought our lane widths down to 11 feet where we can on the side streets. And those channelization islands that we're dividing lanes of traffic, those will create enhanced pedestrian safety. So where we are with the project right now, the project is rolling into, or we've been in the right-of-way phase, and we've kicked that back off very, very recently. But what we need to do is to complete the final design on this quadrant intersection design. We need to incorporate that into our plan set and start going out there and getting the right-of-way here, just as we are for the rest of the corridor. You know, one thing we've got to do with all projects are we've got to get the right-of-way and we've got to get the utilities out of the way before we start construction for the most part. And, you know, it takes a good bit of time to do something like that on a project of this size. So that June 24 construction schedule that we're talking about at this point is probably an appropriate time frame given the magnitude of what we're talking about. I think there's around 200 parcels on this B section of the project alone. And I don't know that I could quantify the utility relocation, but it is substantial for sure. So, you know, that's where we stand. That's where we need to go next. Here we are back at that screenshot of this thing. We can talk a little bit more about it if you want. Certainly want to open up the floor for questions or comments. And if anything, guys on our DOT team that's also on the call, I know we got our planning engineer, Stuart Basham, the project manager, Brian Key, and again, Mike Reese was on the phone. So we've got a team of experts. If there's anything else that you guys or ladies feel like we need to cover, we certainly want to do that tonight, because ultimately what we'd like to be able to do is to move forward from here, to get to work designing this, that is with the engineered plans, and move forward to the next steps of right-of-way and utility relocation.
Brett, could you send this picture or the whole presentation to Alex so he can get it to us and we can
Absolutely.
send it out to our citizens? But you know, I'll go ahead and let you know. I like the look of it. It looks much cleaner than any other proposal I've seen, and it makes sense to me. But just the look of it is nice and clean. Is the word it comes to my mind.
Okay. Thank
I
you.
agree. I agree with the mayor. I'd like this a lot better, and I you know, I can't speak for the rest of the council, but I'd like to see you guys get the ball rolling on this sooner than later.
Certainly.
Since I live right here at this intersection, 2024 seems like a million years away, but yeah, I like it. It's great. Thank you.
It is. It's a ways off, but at the same time, I keep saying this. I mean, this is already 2021. You know, I mean, time has definitely marched on. I can't believe that it's that close, but you're right. It's still a long time for folks that drive through there every day to have to wait on it. But recognize there's big improvement to come if we can just get to that next step.
Brett, is the funding already in place for this, or is
Yes.
it is?
It is a committed project in the state transportation improvement plan.
All right.
You know, and I guess maybe I should take this opportunity to let everyone know who's not hearing these conversations at our local planning organization meetings with CARPO. If any of y'all were in attendance at that meeting or have heard since, you may have heard that we're still struggling statewide with escalating costs. It's a challenge we're going to talk about, I believe, on the next project at Potter and Pleasant Plains. I mean, that's another project that's been challenged by ever-growing cost. And when you magnify something like that, you know, this is just one project here, and then the next project just down the street, that's 2 projects. Well, that's going on all across the state. And so the Department of Transportation is experiencing this in real time, and we're updating all of our cost estimates that we can everywhere in the state. We're doing our best to trim cost out of projects where we can. But at the end of the day, you know, we have what money we have to work with. And as costs go up, some projects are not going to meet their scheduled dates simply because the money won't be there. So there may be some difficult conversations ahead. I can tell you the Old Monroe project and John Street project, it extends all the way to I-485. It's most definitely one of our absolute top priorities in Division 10. It's serving as a major mover of those people, goods, and services that I described earlier. So it's our intention to keep this project at the top of the list.
When is an appropriate time for somebody to ask a question?
I'm good now if everyone else is.
Okay. Well, you briefly, very briefly mentioned Potter and Pleasant Plains. And that's the reason why I came onto this Zoom call in the first place, because I'm deeply affected by that. So when is something going to be done to perhaps turn that into a roundabout or do something sensible with that dreadful intersection?
So I'll be glad to help address that along with the town if we're ready to transition from this project to the next.
Yeah, I think we are, Brett. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Hello, my name is Claire Covington. I'm an attorney here in North Carolina. I have a quick question. Is there an overlay of the current schematic between Old Monroe Road and Potter Road and the new proposal that we could see?
So when you're saying a schematic of talking about existing conditions with like the design overlaid onto an aerial image, is that correct?
Yes, please. Do you have that?
I'm going to ask Brian or Stuart, are you guys aware of that? Is that an exercise that we've completed yet? I'm thinking that we probably don't have it, but I'll ask them to help respond.
I don't know that we have anything, definitely nothing in the same kind of format that you're looking on the screen. I'm looking to see what we do have is pretty high level, but I'm not sure if Brett has access to it at the moment.
Okay, and then a second question would be, do you have numbers in terms of the eminent domain takings that you would be required to effectuate in order to make this plan happen for any of the properties on Old Monroe Road and Stallings Road?
So I can maybe help address that.
Yeah,
You know,
can we do that offline? This is a informational session for the Stallings Town Council. That's the priority. So if Ms. Covington, if you could take that offline and call Brett after the meeting, after this, because we have a hard stop because we have a 7 o'clock council meeting, so we need to get through this. Thank you.
I'd be happy to do that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am.
thank you. Okay, so I believe we wanted to transition to talking about the Stallings, or rather Potter Pleasant Plains, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So just for everyone, maybe you guys want me to do kind of like a quick rundown of what that project is, and
Sure.
okay.
Yes,
So-
please.
So I was trying to, and I apologize. I thought I had a set of plans for this project in my inbox, but there are plans to improve the. Let's see if I can. I'm going to unshare that and share my screen. Help me a little bit. Other screen here. Bear with me. I apologize, guys. Where am I at? So I said I was getting better at these things, right? Really. Oh, here's the button. Just so we can orient ourselves. Everyone can see and probably already knows just how close we are to the Potter / Stallings Olden Road down here at Pleasant Plains in Potter. And there's been a project that the town has actually been leading the charge on for quite some time, I think since the 2013 timeframe, to improve this intersection by adding left turn lanes, possibly some right turns, but definitely the left turns at Potter and Pleasant Plains. And just like many of our projects, as I mentioned a moment ago, this project has seen its fair share of cost increases, right? You know, there was a baseline cost estimate done, and what's happened over the years is the project's refined and really start digging in and realize what it takes to make these improvements. It's turned into a very expensive project, and that project is funded through a what's known as a discretionary fund out of the CRTPO. Those monies are federal funds that come first through NCDOT and then given to the planning organization to use at their discretion. And so in order to access those federal funds, they come with a minimum 20% local match. Usually those are covered by the town. In some cases, it's a combination of state funds and local funds, but for the most part, these are local dollars that are contributing to the project. So, you know, right now, as I understand it, that project has seen a price increase upwards up to above the $3 million mark. And that is fairly expensive for an intersection project. But I visited this intersection just today, and I saw firsthand some of the challenges that do exist. And the fact is, these are state roads, and we recognize the town has really stepped up here to make an effort to improve something on a state road, although it's a challenge. And so right now we're in the process, we're going to help we can walk through the application to seek some additional funds, because again, the project is a little underfunded right now, and that's not unusual. It can happen. There could be some options out there. We're not sure yet, but we definitely need to determine if we can make this project a reality sooner by finding some of those additional funds, or if it makes sense to possibly even incorporate the project into the Old Monroe Road project. And so that would have to be done under an agreement with NCDOT and the town. It still would take some additional funding sources, but I think what it could possibly do is minimize exposure and risk for the town in the long run. But under either scenario, we certainly would be looking to find some additional funding beyond the local funding, and then it's got like 500,000 of federal safety dollars, and then several million worth of the discretionary funds that I mentioned a moment ago. I know that the project is it's very much needed. The roadway condition itself is bad. I looked at that again today, and you know, there's no doubt that there's been deferred maintenance out there, and part of that reasoning was, well, you know, we have very limited funds to work with, and so we're not going to go out there and pave a road just to have it torn up and replaced in a year. And just like the town, we were thinking this project was moving forward, right? And so that's been the expectation on our side and with the folks there at the town. And the fact is, the project is challenged from a funding perspective. And so what we're going to do is take a look at it and do the worst of the maintenance needs right now. If there's any, you know, major dips and things in the roadway, we're going to try to patch some of that stuff out. But we're going to be making some key decisions, hopefully over the next several months, going into probably, Stuart, help me out here. I'm thinking by the fall, we're going to have fully selected the project list for the additional funds, and we should know by that time whether or not the project qualifies there.
Hey, Brett, quick clarification, I guess. It's my understanding when the town started working on this, you know, roughly 2015, 2016, we've spent close to $2 million already. Some of it is federal funds and some of it's state funds. But now we're looking at additional $3 million plus that we're on the hook, we in Union County are on the hook for, that is more than double the original cost estimates. So I'm just having a hard time understanding why that the cost should, for what seems a very basic intersection, should, double in just a few years there. And that's the frustrating part of us. I mean, that's 30% of our annual budget easily.
It is definitely a large chunk for a small town to take on, and you're absolutely right. I'm sure there's a lot of sticker shock associated with that. And so, although I wasn't directly involved with the project early on, my assumption is that it was probably done under the original estimate may have been done with some high level scoping analysis. And if you think of what it costs on average to build a left turn lane, we have a rule of thumb for that, right? But this isn't a rule of thumb location, and I think that's probably what happened, and that's speculation. But the reality is, we did take a hard look at the cost estimate, and the quantities in the estimate were applied and compared back to statewide averages. And so we know that the estimate is good in terms of how much each piece of the project is going to cost. It's a matter of, is the quantity right? Well, I'm assuming the quantity is right. Kimley Horn, one of the areas most firms, I'll say, does a lot of work for NCDOT. Solid engineering firm put this set of plans together. I couldn't imagine there would be something off there. But the fact is, there's a great deal of need, utility relocation, right of way, a lot of drainage that's needed out there that's actually needed today. And so, that's part of probably the hard pill for the town to swallow. And I get that, because you're talking about state road. Why is the town having to make these investments and improvements here? And the reality is there's just not that many dollars to go around. And so these federal funds are here for us all to use. And if we're hopeful that gap, that delta that you're looking at, could be primarily covered with the additional federal funding that we're going to go to bat for here over the next couple of months. It's an application process, and it has to compete with other projects in the region. But we have to see how the chips fall out. But I'm hopeful this project will score well.
Yeah, I hope so, because the town was originally on the hook for $400K under the agreement, and now that's up to 3.1, 3.2 million.
Yeah.
And it's just astronomical, and just especially for it to be a state road and something impacting the residents of this community. I've been in this community coming up on 8 years now, and I have yet to see a major NCDOT project break ground here. It's frustrating because we don't think we're seeing the return of tax dollars. So I'm looking for NCDOT to step up and kind of, make some corrections there.
So, if we had discretionary funding, which we could apply, we would certainly put this in for consideration. But the reality is that our projects of this nature have to go through a scoring and competition process, right? So we have the STI program, which is the projects like the John Street project, and we've got some small safety projects and things like that go through this scoring and ranking. But otherwise, if we had money that we could throw at projects, that's sort of the old school way of thinking of, the politics. I guess the way we operate today is essentially took the politics out of the process. That was the intent, because projects are competing for funds, and I think where we're willing to put our minds together, that we can hopefully come up with a decent solution. We've got a couple of outlets that we're looking at, and if there's anything within our power, we'll certainly do what we can to help it push it over the finish line. If it's a couple $100,000 worth of resurfacing that we can add that gets us there, then we're going to do that. But short of that, we really don't have a pot of money, so to speak, to pull from to alter the course.
So let's talk about that intersection just for a minute from a safety perspective. You said you went out there and walked it today. I mean,
Actually,
I've kind of went down there several
it.
times. You drove it. Okay. So that the sides of the road are falling off. I
Oh,
mean,
yes.
in certain sections where the white line should be painted, the road doesn't even exist there. So I guess my question is that, I mean, what are you thinking about as far as the actual, I mean, what are you thinking about here as far as the actual fixing of this road?
Yeah, and
I mean-
that's a good question. That's a hard one, because here's why. Because if this thing's not going to be, if we push it off and if it gets looped into the larger Monroe Road project, for instance, and it's 2024 before it's implemented, that's a long time to
That's a
have these
very-
conditions. Yeah. And we recognize that, right? I mean, obviously, and a matter of fact, I had just a few minutes to have a conversation with my division maintenance engineer, who's now Lee Ainsworth, was formerly in the district office there, and this was one of his counties he was responsible for. So he's intimately familiar with it. Everybody on our side knows that something needs to be done. The question is what, right? So if the project moves forward with its current funding mode and doesn't get incorporated into Old Monroe, and it could be done sooner, well, I don't think NCDOT needs to go out and spend several $100,000 on resurfacing the whole thing, right? Because again, we have very limited funds.
I mean, your own pictures here are painting
Oh,
I mean, I just see that this road could last. I mean, if you're talking about not starting until 2024, I mean, I'm not sure that this road can last to 2024. I mean, you've got ditches out there that are starting to collapse into,
so
18 inches. I guess my question is that people are starting to wonder who they contact for automobile repair and things like that there. I mean, do we send them to the DOT?
yes,
Because, I mean, the town's not responsible for that.
that's right. If there's a tort claim process, if citizens do damage a vehicle and wish to file a claim with NCDOT, we are absolutely the correct point of contact for that. That would be ideally our Union County Maintenance Office, and we could get that contact information to you guys if you needed to share that. But I'm with you. I agree. We cannot wait till 2024 to do something out here. So what we're going to do right now is, if there is any patching needs that are presenting hazards, and you look at something like that, that's technically off the road, but you don't know it because the white line's gone, right? I mean, so
The big hole that you're showing, the big
Yeah.
2 holes that you're showing right here at the big
Yeah.
side, that's right in the middle of the roadway.
No, right here where I'm pointing at.
Right, the big one right here in front
That
of
one?
you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
that's
is.
a pothole. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's the type of patching, and that's about, I mean, if that one's there today, that's 1.5 inches, 2 inches. That's about the thickness of the low layer of asphalt. Bottom line is, we need to go out there and do some patching, which we are doing, we're planning to do. But if it's going to be 2024 before the project comes, I think we need to make a larger investment there in the interim. And to get a little bit techie with you guys, the biggest issue that I've got with this area is the lack of drainage. So you notice it just happens that Google Street View is showing this just after, not too long after a storm event or rainfall event, and everywhere you look, you're holding water. So the biggest issue is this road doesn't drain. I rode up and down these roads and realized that we have an issue with drainage. I'm trying to, my arrow is hidden behind my other monitor. So all up and down plains and water, very poor drainage characteristics. Some of that is due to a location like this that was developed, I'm going to guess in the 80s. I could be wrong, but when access management wasn't so much of a challenge, right? This was probably just an old farm to market road, hardly had any cars on it, I'm guessing, especially compared to today. So the access management plan there wasn't that great. The frontage of this thing has a ton of frontage and only one little drop inlet. All up and down here, Pleasant Plains, you see where the sidewalk was constructed. To be really honest with you, it was constructed improperly. NCDOT would not have been on board with the way this was constructed if you put this in front of us today. The ditches all through here are filled in, so the water can't drain away. What that does is that kills the lifespan of your asphalt, and the subgrade, when it stays wet like that, it just can't hold up. And so one thing I want to do, particularly if this thing is waiting that 2024.
We understand this, That's the reason why we're trying to get you to fix it.
Well,
I
that's
mean,
that's why I'm describing the plan for what I will be doing if it's 2024 before this takes off. Is we're going to have to come in here and pull some ditches. We're going to have to get this area to drain. So that would be something that would have to come before we could put a ton of money into asphalt. Otherwise, it would be throwing money away, and that's just not something we can afford to do. But the interim, the immediate fix is to go out there and do some patching. You know, now that we know that, you know, even as of 2 months ago, our maintenance forces were calling up to the division saying, all right, we need to do some work out here. But we know the project's coming. And so everyone said, yeah, the project's coming. Well, now we know the project's going to be paused for some time because the money's not there, right? So we actually resurfaced in and around this area, and we would have already resurfaced this area. But the fact is, we were thinking, right, just like the town was, just like the citizens, everybody had that expectation. So that's why
we had the expectation this project was starting last year. We were given a date of August of 2020. And now
that's my point exactly. That's my point exactly. That's why no resurfacing was done, because we didn't want to put a couple $100,000 of asphalt down just to have it sort of, you know, be used up by the other project or be, you know.
I'm
That's
sorry,
not
then this is the biggest area of complaint in our entire town. And I mean, it's almost been 10 years now, and you're telling us now that it could be, you know, 3 or 4 more years. I mean,
Right. That's
I
right.
understand there's a money problem, but at some place it feels like there was an overextension or, you know, over-promising to get work done. I'm not really sure what the answer is there. All I know is that, I mean, we've got a problem here, and 2024 sounds like it's a long way away for the condition that it's in today. That's all. And I apologize that.
Don't
Can I jump
apologize,
into-
Mr. Ayers. Can I just say one small thing? I don't understand why all the new housing in the area that is clogging the roads hasn't been charged some money to go towards making this intersection better. Why isn't money being taken from the apartments on Chestnut, the apartments on, there's a lot of them there, the apartments everywhere that are going up left, right, and center, all of which have people clogging the road. If it can be done at the other end of Chestnut into a beautiful roundabout that speeds everything up, I don't understand why a roundabout can't be done here.
I can address that briefly for you. The primary reason is your elected state officials have outlawed impact fees. And the only reason that the Chestnut, the apartments down on Solis got that roundabout was because it was required as part of the TIA. And we worked out a deal with the developer to front NCDOT the money, over $1 million, which we're going to talk about later tonight, to bridge the funding crisis, to get that roundabout in place. And that solved a huge problem that Union County created down in that area with putting some houses in and such. But the long and short of it is your state legislatures have deemed it that it's not fair for the developers to pay for any impact.
We just haven't been able to prove anything. Could I also add something?
What is your name, ma'am?
Kathleen, Kate Hager.
And where do you live?
I live in Curry Way, right
Yeah.
off of Potter Road.
Yes, ma'am.
Curry Place, I'm sorry. Actually, I think even more so than the condition of the road, I would have to say emergency vehicles would be a priority. 2 years ago, we needed an ambulance in here, and they couldn't get through the traffic. I had to call 911 2 times before they got here. That is my big concern. You know, sometimes a minute can make all the difference, you know?
Understand, ma'am. All right, Brett. Well, Stephen, do you understand what's the next action items that's going to be taking place? We're going to try to see if, you know, we get the money from CARTPO. We're applying for that funding. I've contacted Representative Dean Arp, and he's looking into some money. And then, the DOT is looking at the temporary patching right now that'll, help with some of the water problems and the potholes there. And then, the long range plan is to encompass it in with the Old Monroe planning, which we hope that doesn't happen. We hope we can fix it quicker, but those are all the action items that we've got on the table.
Mr. Mayor, you know that I don't really like that, but I'll take what I can get at this point. I mean, I just think that it's hard for me to believe that we had a date of August 2020, and now we're it seems like everything was moving towards that date. And then, I mean, I guess I kind of feel like these type of questions should have come up this time last year if we were gonna have money problems making August 2020 start date. It seems kind of bizarre to me that we're a year later talking about these type of things when we already had a start date that was already agreed upon. And now we're talking about them and it's just a mythical date in the future. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Obviously it's a touchy subject.
Well, I agree with your frustration there, but
Yeah.
just a similar point of view. Old Monroe Road was originally scheduled to start construction in 2017. And so here it is, 2021, and it's not going to be for a while for that started. So things happen, and we just have to try to get the best solution that we can and work with DOT, which we're doing. So I just want to make sure everybody understands what the next action items are that I just summarized. All righty, like I said, we're up on a little timeline, 6:31. Brett, could you switch over to Ottawa Road? Do you have anything for us right there that you can bring up for council?
So sure. We'll just don't have a great exhibit prepared, but we have talked about Ottawa Road with the town in the past. That's another STI project. It was supposed to go from I-485 out to Stevens Mill, and just like the Old Monroe project, the future traffic volumes were very, very high, incredibly high on this stretch of Ottawa Road. The predictions were pushing us towards a 6-lane roadway, and so far the conversations with the folks here at the town have been that maybe not be something that the town wants to see happen. So our options are to put that project off for a little bit, maybe work with CARTPO on a different planning study that might identify a different type of project or a different location or something along those lines. But for now, if it's a desire of the town, which I believe it may be, but I don't know what action, Mayor, you believe is needed for that, but to potentially postpone this section of roadway improvement until a little bit more studying can be done, or we can see what comes by way of development through the corridor.
Right, and that's what I want to explain to council is, a lot of it will depend on what happens tonight, and then we'll get back with DOT after that. Some of the decisions are made by the council, and decide on what we want to do. Council, any questions about Ottawa Road? Hey, I had one comment back to Brad on back to Old Monroe Road. Is there any way, I've been a big proponent of lowering the town speed limit to 35 miles per hour town-wide, except on Highway 74. And I haven't been successful. A lot of people, even citizens, are fighting me on that. But I know y'all do a lot of studying, but I'd love to see, the speed limit through Stallings at 35 miles per hour. Because some of the speed limits on Old Monroe Road right now are 35 miles per hour. And so I just like to put that request in that y'all can somehow study that.
Is that something you want to see on Old Monroe as well?
Oh yeah, I'd like to see it. The last thing I want that to do is be a speedway through the town. They're not stopping at the McDonald's. They're not stopping at the pizza place, and take your time and enjoy some of our businesses.
Just really quick, Brian or Stuart, either one, what's our design speed through here? Do you recall? Is it 50? So it would be a posted 45? Or do we have that?
Yes, that's correct, Brett.
Okay. So, Mayor, if you don't mind, I'd like to look into that a little bit deeper to see what
Did he say,
likely.
did he say 50 miles per hour?
So that's a design speed. I probably shouldn't have said that because I know that's a big alarm. So that would be the design speed. You always design a little higher than you to accommodate speeds than what you are actually going to post. So what that means is if this was a design speed of 50, we would post it at 45 miles per hour. That would be the current plan.
Yeah. And I look at the Old Monroe Road running through Matthews right now. That's 35 miles per hour. So why is theirs 35 miles per hour? It's 4 lanes. And so that's what I would expect the whole, to run through Stallings as well.
Well, I'll counter that with going back to my opening statement, and that was what our goal is, right? It's to move people, move goods and services, but there's a balance, right? That's why we're here tonight and why we want to work with you. So, is it 35 or is it 45? What's the right answer? I would just ask that you give me a little time to investigate that and determine what flexibility we can come up with there.
Sure, no problem.
Okay.
Any questions from council for Brett or his team? All righty. Brett and your team, thank y'all for your time tonight and throwing us the presentation on Old Monroe Road. And like I said, I like the look of it. So I look forward to moving some dirt on that.
Well, thank you for having us. We're pleased to be able to present with you this evening.
All right. Thank you, Brett.
Thanks, everyone.
Hey, we appreciate it. I know that obviously we're frustrated. I hope that that frustration isn't personal. It is in the diligence to try to get something done for our citizens.
Hey, if I get that, I mean, I'm a human too, right? I mean, I feel the same way about certain things. I don't blame you a bit. It's just, it's a difficult subject when we're talking about transportation funding. It really is.
All righty.
Thanks,
Good night.
everyone.
Good night, folks.
Mayor
Good night.
Dern, can you take a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Second.
Linda, you want to accept? It seems like the mayor's already dropped. You're muted.
You're on mute.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, see you all back at 7.
See you in 20.
And there was somebody.